Welcome to IELTS CELPIP MasterPrep, your trusted source for real exam-based practice tests. Every test you see here is inspired by current exam trends, and each one comes with full model solutions to help you master every section. Here's our daily schedule. IELTS tests drop every morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, and CLP tests every evening at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. No matter which exam you're preparing for, we've got you covered every single day. Are you ready for today's test? Give it your best shot and comment your score. The top 5 scorers will be featured in our monthly Achievers newsletter and awards. Want your name included? Let's begin.
What advice would you give your friend to help her choose between the job offer in Vancouver and the one in Calgary? Begin speaking now.
I think you should really consider what matters most to you. The Vancouver job sounds exciting because it is a big city with lots of things to do, but it is also very expensive to live there. Calgary is more affordable, and the project manager role seems like a higher position, which is good for your career. You should also think about the weather and being close to family. I would probably pick Calgary because you can save more money and grow in your career faster. But it is your decision, so choose what makes you happiest.
That is a tough decision, but I would suggest you weigh a few important factors before making up your mind. First, consider the cost of living. Vancouver is significantly more expensive than Calgary, especially when it comes to housing. Even if the Vancouver salary looks attractive, your money would stretch much further in Calgary. Second, the project manager title carries more responsibility and could open better doors for career advancement down the road. On the other hand, Vancouver offers a milder climate and a vibrant cultural scene, which might suit your lifestyle preferences. Ultimately, I would lean towards Calgary for the financial stability and professional growth, but I encourage you to visit both cities before deciding.
I completely understand why you are torn. Both opportunities have genuine appeal. However, if I were in your shoes, I would carefully evaluate this decision through 3 lenses: financial sustainability, career trajectory, and overall quality of life. Vancouver is undeniably stunning and culturally rich, but the reality is that housing costs there are among the highest in Canada, which could place considerable strain on your finances, particularly in the early stages of your career. Calgary, by contrast, offers a remarkably affordable cost of living, and the project manager position represents a meaningful step up in terms of professional responsibility and leadership experience. Furthermore, Alberta's growing tech and energy sectors could present unexpected networking opportunities. That said, I would also encourage you to reflect on where you see yourself in 5 years and which city aligns more naturally with that vision. Personally, I would favor Calgary, but the best choice is the one that resonates with your long-term aspirations.
Your friend is resistant to hearing any perspective other than her own. How do you address her stubbornness while still trying to help her make a well-informed decision? Begin speaking now.
I understand you really like Vancouver, and I respect that. But I am your friend, so I have to be honest with you. You told me the Vancouver salary is not much higher than Calgary, but rent in Vancouver is almost double. I am not trying to argue with you, I just want you to think about it carefully. You do not have to choose Calgary, but at least look at the numbers before you decide. I care about you, and I do not want you to struggle with money later. Can we just sit down and compare the two offers together?
Look, I can see how excited you are about Vancouver, and I genuinely respect your enthusiasm. However, as someone who cares about your well-being, I feel it is my responsibility to make sure you are considering the full picture. When I brought up Calgary, I was not trying to dismiss your preference, I was simply pointing out that the financial advantages there are quite significant. Housing alone could save you over $1,000 a month, and that kind of difference really adds up over time. I am not asking you to give up on Vancouver entirely, but would you be willing to sit down with me and create a proper side-by-side comparison? Sometimes seeing the numbers laid out clearly can bring a new perspective. At the end of the day, this is absolutely your call, and I will support whatever you decide.
I hear you, and I want you to know that I am not trying to undermine your excitement about Vancouver. It is a fantastic city, and I completely understand why it appeals to you. But I would be doing you a disservice as a friend if I simply agreed with everything without raising some legitimate concerns. The reality is that Vancouver's cost of living has been a well-documented challenge for young professionals across Canada, and dismissing that factor entirely could lead to unnecessary financial stress down the line. What troubles me is not your preference itself but the fact that you seem unwilling to even explore the alternative. Calgary's offer is not just financially stronger, it also represents a more senior role that could accelerate your career considerably. All I am asking is that you approach this decision with an open mind. Why not take a weekend to visit Calgary, explore the neighborhoods, and see how it feels before closing that door permanently? I promise I will fully support whichever path you choose, but I need to know that you have made an informed decision rather than an impulsive one.
Describe what you see happening in this park scene. Include details about the people, their activities, and the overall atmosphere. Begin speaking now.
In this picture, I can see a very busy park on a nice sunny day. There are many families enjoying the afternoon. On the left side, some children are playing on the playground equipment, and their parents are watching them nearby. In the middle of the park, a group of young people is playing frisbee on the grass. On the right side, there is a couple sitting on a bench and eating ice cream. I can also see some people walking their dogs along the path. The trees have green leaves, and everyone looks happy and relaxed. It seems like a perfect spring day.
This image captures a lively weekend afternoon, in what appears to be a popular Toronto park during spring. The scene is bustling with activity and energy. In the foreground, a young family is spread out on a checkered blanket, enjoying a picnic with sandwiches and fruit, while their toddler crawls playfully on the grass beside them. Towards the center of the park, a spirited game of frisbee is underway among a group of teenagers, and a golden retriever is enthusiastically chasing after the disc. Along the winding pathway on the left, several joggers and cyclists are making their way through the park, weaving around elderly couples strolling hand in hand. In the background, children are climbing and sliding on colorful playground equipment under the watchful eyes of their caregivers. The cherry blossom trees are in full bloom, adding a beautiful pink canopy to the scene. The overall atmosphere feels warm, vibrant, and quintessentially Canadian.
This vibrant scene depicts a sprawling urban park, likely in downtown Toronto, absolutely teeming with life on what appears to be a glorious spring Saturday afternoon. The composition is remarkably dynamic, with layers of activity unfolding simultaneously across the frame. In the immediate foreground, a multi-generational family has claimed a prime spot beneath a towering maple tree, where they have laid out an elaborate picnic spread, complete with a portable speaker and a stack of board games, suggesting they intend to savor the entire afternoon. Just beyond them, the open green space is alive with motion. A competitive game of volleyball occupies one section, while nearby, a father patiently teaches his young daughter to ride a bicycle without training wheels, her face a mixture of concentration and delight. The meandering pathway that cuts through the park is a stream of humanity, joggers with earbuds, couples pushing strollers, and a street musician strumming an acoustic guitar beside an open case sprinkled with coins. Towards the far end, the playground area is an explosion of color and sound, with children of all ages navigating climbing structures and swinging with abandon. Cherry blossoms frame the entire scene in soft pink, lending an almost painterly quality to this quintessential portrait of Canadian community life in full bloom.
How do you think the rise of remote work will change Canadian cities over the next decade? What specific changes do you predict and why? Begin speaking now.
I think remote work will change Canadian cities a lot in the next 10 years. First, I believe more people will move away from expensive cities like Toronto and Vancouver to smaller places like Halifax or Kelowna because they do not need to go to an office every day. This will make smaller cities grow bigger and more popular. Also, I think housing prices in big cities might go down a little because fewer people will want to live there. Downtown areas will probably change too, with fewer office buildings and more apartments or shops. Overall, I predict that Canada will become more spread out, and people will have more choices about where to live.
I am quite confident that remote work will fundamentally reshape the landscape of Canadian cities over the coming decade. One of the most significant shifts I foresee is a substantial migration from major urban centers to mid-sized cities, and even rural communities. Places like Fredericton, Thunder Bay, and Prince George could experience unexpected population booms as professionals realize they can earn Toronto-level salaries while enjoying a far lower cost of living. Consequently, I predict that these smaller municipalities will need to invest heavily in infrastructure, including high-speed internet, healthcare facilities, and public transit. Meanwhile, the downtown cores of cities like Montreal and Calgary will likely undergo a dramatic transformation. Many commercial office towers may be converted into residential or mixed-use spaces to adapt to reduced demand. I also anticipate that local economies in smaller towns will diversify significantly, supported by an influx of skilled workers and their spending power. However, this shift will not be without challenges, as rapid growth could strain housing markets in previously affordable communities.
The rise of remote work is poised to trigger what I would characterize as the most significant geographic redistribution of talent and economic activity that Canada has witnessed in generations. Over the next decade, I predict we will see a pronounced decentralization of the Canadian workforce, with professionals increasingly gravitating towards smaller centres, think Charlottetown, Kamloops, or Sault Ste. Marie, where the quality of life is exceptional and housing remains comparatively accessible. This migration will inevitably catalyze a ripple effect. These communities will experience accelerated economic diversification, greater cultural vibrancy, and mounting pressure on municipal infrastructure that was never designed for rapid population growth. Simultaneously, I anticipate that Canada's major metropolitan areas will undergo a profound identity transformation. The traditional downtown business district, anchored by gleaming office towers, will progressively give way to mixed-use neighborhoods that prioritize residential living, green spaces, and community amenities over corporate real estate. Furthermore, I expect this shift will compel all three levels of government to rethink broadband connectivity as essential infrastructure, particularly in remote and indigenous communities that have historically been underserved. The most intriguing consequence, however, may be a gradual narrowing of the economic disparity between urban and rural Canada, a development that could strengthen national cohesion in ways few policy initiatives have managed to achieve.
Compare the two universities and persuade your friend to choose one of them. Explain why you think one is a better choice. Begin speaking now.
I think you should pick UBC over McGill. Both are great schools, but UBC has a stronger environmental science program. Vancouver is right next to the mountains and ocean, so you can do outdoor research easily. The campus is beautiful and has many green spaces. McGill is also good, but Montreal winters are very harsh, and you would need to learn some French for daily life. UBC also has excellent co-op programs that help you find jobs after graduation. I really believe Vancouver is the better city for studying the environment.
Honestly, I would strongly recommend choosing UBC for your environmental science degree. While both universities are among Canada's top-ranked institutions, UBC offers some distinct advantages. First, Vancouver's diverse ecosystems, from coastal rainforests to mountain habitats, provide unparalleled fieldwork opportunities right at your doorstep. Second, UBC's Faculty of Science has dedicated sustainability research centers that align perfectly with your interests. McGill is certainly prestigious, but Montreal's climate and the expectation of French fluency could be added challenges. Additionally, UBC's co-op program has strong connections with environmental organizations across British Columbia. I genuinely think UBC would give you the best academic and personal experience.
I have given this considerable thought, and I would wholeheartedly encourage you to choose UBC. Although McGill undeniably holds a stellar reputation, particularly in the humanities and social sciences, UBC's environmental science program stands out for several compelling reasons. Geographically, Vancouver is situated at the intersection of marine, forest, and alpine ecosystems, which means you would have extraordinary access to diverse field research sites throughout your studies. Furthermore, UBC has invested heavily in sustainability initiatives, including the SEEDS program, which allows undergraduates to contribute to real-world environmental projects on campus. From a lifestyle perspective, Vancouver's milder climate and outdoor culture would complement your passion for nature far better than Montreal's frigid winters. While McGill does offer a vibrant cultural scene, I firmly believe that UBC's academic strengths and natural surroundings make it the superior choice for your career aspirations.
What would you do and say to handle this difficult situation with your landlord? Begin speaking now.
I would call my landlord again and speak firmly. I would say that the apartment is dangerously cold and my family cannot live like this in January. I would tell them that landlords in Ontario must provide heat between September and June by law. If they do not send a repair person within 24 hours, I will contact the landlord and tenant board to file a complaint. I would also ask my neighbors if they are having the same problem. In the meantime, I would buy a space heater to keep warm.
First, I would send my landlord a written notice by email, so that I have documentation of the issue. I would clearly state that the heating has been broken for 3 days, and that the indoor temperature is now dangerously low at 10 degrees. I would remind them that under Ontario's Residential Tenancies Act, landlords are legally required to maintain adequate heating, and failure to do so is a serious violation. I would give them a firm deadline of 24 hours to arrange repairs. If they still refuse to act, I would explain that I intend to file a T6 application with the Landlord and Tenant Board and request a rent abatement. Meanwhile, I would purchase a portable heater and keep all receipts to claim reimbursement later.
I would approach this situation methodically to protect both my health and my legal rights. To begin with, I would send a formal written notice to my landlord via email and registered mail, clearly outlining that the heating system has been non-functional for 3 consecutive days and that the apartment temperature has fallen to an unsafe 10 degrees Celsius. I would reference the specific provisions of the Residential Tenancies Act that obligate landlords to maintain vital services, including heating, and emphasize that this constitutes a breach of their legal responsibilities. I would set a firm 24-hour deadline for a licensed technician to inspect and repair the system. Should my landlord continue to be unresponsive, I would escalate the matter by filing a T6 application with the Landlord and Tenant Board, requesting both an emergency repair order and a rent abatement for the period without heat. In the interim, I would document everything with photographs showing the thermostat readings and purchase a portable heater, retaining all receipts for potential reimbursement. I would also contact Ottawa Public Health if conditions worsened, as they have the authority to intervene in such cases.
Do you think Canada should increase its immigration targets? What is your opinion and why? Begin speaking now.
I believe Canada should increase immigration, but carefully. Canada needs more workers because many Canadians are retiring, and there are not enough young people to fill jobs. Immigrants bring valuable skills and help the economy grow. However, the government must also invest in housing and healthcare because these services are already under pressure. If we bring in too many people without planning, it could cause problems for everyone. So I support higher targets, but only if the government has a good plan to support newcomers and existing residents at the same time.
In my view, Canada should moderately increase immigration targets, provided that the government simultaneously invests in essential infrastructure. The economic case for immigration is compelling. Canada's aging population means fewer taxpayers supporting public services, and many industries, from healthcare to technology, face critical labor shortages that domestic workers alone cannot fill. Newcomers also enrich our communities culturally and contribute to innovation and entrepreneurship. That said, I believe it would be irresponsible to raise targets dramatically without addressing the current housing affordability crisis and the strain on our healthcare system. Cities like Toronto and Vancouver are already struggling with limited supply. Therefore, I support a balanced approach that increases immigration gradually while directing federal funding toward building affordable housing and expanding healthcare capacity to ensure quality of life for all residents.
I hold the view that Canada should pursue a measured increase in immigration targets, but this must be accompanied by a comprehensive strategy to strengthen our social infrastructure. From an economic standpoint, the argument is quite straightforward. Statistics Canada has consistently projected that immigration will account for virtually all of our labor force growth in the coming decades, and without a steady influx of skilled workers, critical sectors such as healthcare, skilled trades, and technology will face severe shortages. Beyond economics, immigration has historically been a cornerstone of Canadian identity, fostering the multicultural fabric that distinguishes our society. However, I am equally convinced that raising targets without proportional investment in housing, healthcare, and settlement services would be counterproductive and potentially erode public support for immigration altogether. We are already witnessing unprecedented pressure on rental markets in major urban centers, and emergency room wait times continue to climb. Therefore, I advocate for a strategic approach that ties immigration levels to measurable benchmarks in infrastructure readiness, ensuring that newcomers can integrate successfully while existing residents do not experience a decline in services. This balanced framework would preserve Canada's reputation as a welcoming nation while maintaining the quality of life that attracts immigrants in the first place.
Describe what you see and experience in this unusual situation. What happens and what do you do? Begin speaking now.
Last Sunday morning, I was walking my dog in Stanley Park when I noticed a black duffel bag on a bench. Nobody was around, so I looked inside and was shocked to find stacks of $100 bills. There must have been hundreds of thousands of dollars. My heart was beating fast, and I looked around to see if anyone was watching. I did not touch the money. Instead, I called the Vancouver police right away and waited by the bench until they arrived. They thanked me and took the bag as evidence. It was the strangest thing that ever happened to me.
It was a crisp Sunday morning, and I was enjoying a peaceful walk with my golden retriever along the Siwash Rock Trail in Stanley Park. The park was unusually quiet, with only a few joggers in the distance. As I approached a wooden bench overlooking the water, I noticed a large black duffel bag sitting unattended. Curiosity got the better of me, and when I unzipped it, I could hardly believe my eyes. It was packed with neatly bundled stacks of Canadian $100 bills. My hands were trembling, and my mind raced with questions about where the money had come from. I immediately stepped back, pulled out my phone, and called 911. I described my location to the dispatcher and stayed near the bench without touching anything further. Within 15 minutes, 2 Vancouver police officers arrived, secured the area, and took my statement. They told me I had done the right thing. Walking home, I still felt a rush of adrenaline from the entire surreal experience.
What unfolded last Sunday morning in Stanley Park was something I never could have imagined. I had set out early with my border collie, Maple, to enjoy the serenity of the Siwash Rock Trail before the usual weekend crowds arrived. The cherry blossoms were just beginning to bloom along the pathway, and a light mist hung over Burrard Inlet, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere. As we rounded a bend near a secluded wooden bench, Maple began tugging insistently at her leash, pulling me toward a large black duffel bag that had been left on the seat. There was no one in sight. Against my better judgment, I cautiously unzipped the bag and was utterly stunned to discover row upon row of neatly banded Canadian $100 bills. The sheer volume was staggering. It appeared to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. My pulse quickened immediately, and a wave of conflicting emotions washed over me: disbelief, excitement, and a creeping sense of unease about who this money might belong to and why it had been abandoned. I resisted any temptation to take the money, stepped several meters away from the bench, and promptly dialed 911. I remained at the scene, keeping other curious passers-by at a distance until Vancouver police officers arrived approximately 20 minutes later. They cordoned off the area, photographed the bag, and took a detailed statement from me. As I walked home through the Awakening Park, the whole episode felt thoroughly surreal, as though I had stumbled into the plot of a crime novel rather than an ordinary Sunday morning stroll.
Before you go, don't forget to like this video, share it with other test takers, and subscribe so you never miss your daily IELTS and CELPIP tests. Drop your score in the comments. Your name could be featured in our monthly Achievers newsletter. Stay consistent, stay focused, and keep leveling up with MasterPrep.